Hello, my name is Paul L. Carson, and in this first clip, we're going to show you 749 East 131st Street in Cleveland, Ohio, in the backyard. On the left-hand side is Mary Brady Carson and Henry Carson, and this is the flowers in the backyard of 749. Henry came over in 1907 on the Carpathia from Newcastle. Mary Brady was Irish and came from Ireland. This must be a bird that's been dead quite a number of years, and this is a swan, I think, at the Cleveland Zoo. Or it might be Metropolitan Park. No, it's a Cleveland Zoo. And there's my favorite seal, swimming back and forth, or sea lion. And I'm taking these on all single 8 video camera. Actually, it's not video, it's just a film. There's my friend the lion. And there's the Monkey Island. It's amazing how monkeys could pick each other and so forth and just sit there and have just a wonderful life. And now the zoo is pretty nice. Now they have a rainforest at the zoo. But Monkey Island used to be a kid's favorite. I think when I took these, I probably was about 13 years old. Saved my money up and bought a single 8 movie camera. Bill and Howe. And there's a couple bears. I'm sure the bears aren't alive. This must be 60 years ago. And they like to cool off too. Mama bear, Papa bear. And this is Patricia mother, aka my mother. and there's Freddie Boos across the street. Patricia just died this year. She was 90 years old. And there's a car. I don't know what that is. A Plymouth, and my friend the Squirrel. These pictures are kind of funny. Probably didn't have good lighting in those days, so I had to get right up on the picture. And there's a squirrel eating a nut, and this is probably a classic. Hello, Mr. Squirrel. How are you? Oh, I don't know what this is. That's another squirrel. I think I was hiding his nuts. No, I was feeding him, that's right. Letting them come close and so forth. And we used to eat them, squirrel food, later on. I'm only kidding. This movie is in living color. I think it was like, in those days, $8 a roll for a single 8 film. This is Washington, D.C., and the Capitol, the rotunda there, you can see it. The kid in the front, I was 15, I think, when I went here, and the kid in the front is Eugene Thomas. I think Eugene is deceased right now. And there's an old Buick Roadmaster running down the street towards the Capitol and the rotunda. And there is the Washington Monument. And you can see all the dirt in the side of the film and so forth. These weren't very good in those days. But Eugene and I had took a trip to Washington on our own. This is the unknown soldier marching back and forth. Is a guard, which is there 24 hours a day, guarding the unknown soldier. And they change the guards every 2 hours. I think I have pictures of the changing of the guard. As I pan in on, I think this is, there's the guard. Kennedy is buried here, by the way, and they're changing the guard right now. Notice the uniforms, they're brown. They changed to green later on. I had a green one. I didn't guard this particular unknown soldiers thing. And then he's taking away the guard, and the people came there and watched the changing of the guard every 2 hours. And here's an airplane going down and landing. I don't know where this is. Must be from the hotel room. This is in Maine. That's Longfellow's home. Longfellow's a poet, for those who don't know it. And this is George Washington. No, I guess that wasn't Longfellow's home. This is George Washington's, gosh, and I can't remember the name of the place. Tomb of Washington erected, site and material specified in Washington's will. And now I'm taking a cruise down the Potomac River. This I can recall pretty good. And I love to take pictures of water. There's an all-wood boat, fiberglass. I don't even think it was invented back then. They didn't put it in boats in any case. But they were cool wooden boats. And we're going down the Potomac River, cutting a swath through the water. And you can see some of the... it's an airfield, an Army airfield. You can see there's a Billy Mitchell B-25 bomber. Those are the same things that flew 30 seconds over Tokyo in the Doolittle raid. That is a Flying Fortress there, 4-engine. Those are all probably gone. There's a guy taking some pictures. I don't remember where this was, but oh no, this is the Bowery, I believe, in New York City. No, Chinatown. I'll take it back. This is Chinatown. We took a trip from. We went from Boston to Maine, Maine back to Boston, Boston to New York, and New York to Washington D.C. and Washington D.C. Home. This is the Statue of Liberty. And we went up into the Statue of Liberty. This is where the ships would come in and dock, and that's where the SS Normandy sank, burned and sank in New York Harbor. And there's the skyline of New York as it was in 1951, I believe this was. There she is, the majestic Statue of Liberty, who's given to us by France. And you could walk all the way up into the flame, the tower, whatever they call it, but they closed that off during the war for some reason or other. And there is the UN building, and the Twin Towers were right next to that in the UN building. The Twin Towers, of course, are gone now because of the 9/11 debacle here. And there is the Chrysler building. And this is from on top of the Empire State Building. Believe it or not, in the Empire State Building, there was one of those B-25 Billy Mitchell bombers that, in a fog, hit the Empire State Building, which really today is not a very high building. And it hit somewhere on the, I forgot, 50th floor and so forth, and the people couldn't get off of there. What you've seen just now is one of my model airplanes that I was building at that time, and this is the backyard of 749 East 131st Street. And the fence you're looking at is a barbed wire fence way in the back there, and the railroad tracks were just maybe 30 feet from there. And every night you could hear the trains going by to put you to sleep. Boom, 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 boom. This here is little Bruce Carson. That's Edward's son. He eventually joined the Marine Corps, went to Collinwood High School, and I think he just retired as a Ohio Belle. That's Edward. He's my uncle. He always treated me as a brother. And that's Henry. And Edward was in the Merchant Marine during the war. He was an officer. And after the end of the war, he's supposed to have his own ship and go to, not the end of the war, end of the European War, his own ship, and go to Tokyo. or Japan at that point in time, because the war wasn't over there yet. And there's Bruce. He was a nice looking kid. All the kids in the family are great. There's only, I think, as far as I know, 2 girls, and that's my little granddaughter, Lena. And that's Teddy Johnson. He was just a kid. I think that's me. I believe it. No, I believe that's a little Jewish kid that lived across the street. No, that's Teddy Johnson again. There's Patricia. And there was a Gulco store in the background there, a little store we used to go to. And here comes a Model T, looks like, down the street. These cars are old. There's Teddy. There's me, the photographer. I seem to think my son Paul got some of this, the genes, making movies and things like that. And that was Rob. This is Robert Coleman, I believe, riding the bike. Teddy Johnson again. I don't know if they were even alive. I don't think Coleman is. And I don't know who this guy is. I must have had some spare film. And there's a dog. Looks like Sherman. Cute little dog. I don't remember whose dog that was, but used to have a lot of fun with animals. And then you can clearly see the railroad tracks up there now. And there's the garages across the street where the Boozes used to live, and during the war the FBI would come and investigate them because they were Germans. This is Carolyn Carson, Jack's daughter. I don't know where Carolyn lives today, but she's got to be in there. And the right-hand side here is Jack Carson. He's 90 years old. And the kid that you saw before the boy is a Jewish kid around the neighborhood. The neighborhood's predominantly Jewish across the street, and all those apartments that you see down there. And the houses here were sort of a mixture of Irish and Slovenians. And that is little Bobby Carson that Henry's carrying. Bobby is an attorney in Solon. He was a cute little kid. If you look at Bobby's eyes, it looks a little bit like Nate. That's Frida. Frida died, I think, 2 years ago. I didn't even know about it. And there's Jack Carson again. He was an insurance salesman. And there's little Jack right there. Little Jack grew to be about 6'1". He's an electrician, and he was a very powerful kid. He, was once like runner-up to Mr. Cleveland. That's Bob Coleman. Yeah, he would live down the street, and I think I'm on a motorbike right now, zooming on the back end or whatever, zooming down the street, trying to catch Bob. And here comes Bob. I don't recall where this is, the A&P lot, or I think it's the A&P lot. We used to hang around and play ball in the gravel and stuff like that. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Crash. Those are our bicycles, so Bob's going to make this bike disappear. Bob, he joined the Air Force and got into some real trouble in Japan. I think he paid off a cab driver with a hammer or something like that. I think he killed somebody. Ended up in a Tokyo jail for 10 years or 8 or 9 years. I don't remember. There's a Nash Rambler. I had a Nash Rambler for about 2 months. Until I blew a head gasket. There it goes. I don't know what the signs used to say, but the houses were all sort of, wooden, kind of 2x4 houses with, most of them had oak floors in them. And they're nice. Tile was not really predominant in those days. In fact, I don't even know if they really had commercially put tile into the market yet. Here I go on the motorbike again, zooming down the street. It wasn't my motorbike. It was a kid called Donnie Leach. Donnie became a minister, and there's Bob Mathias and Ray Toms strapping on our football helmets, and that's the lot that we used to play football and so forth, baseball and so forth. There was a Bobby Mathias, or that's not Donnie, but that's Ray. Bobby or Donnie, I think is dead. The kid on the bottom is Dennis Hoja. He grew up to be 6'4", the weakest guy I ever met. No, he's okay, but I remember he was trying to crawl the fence. We were in a hop of freight, whatever, and he slipped. He was kind of a clumsy kid, and he slipped and caught his forearm on there, and it ripped it all the way down. He must have had 50 stitches in it. He's still kicking. He is a college professor now. Teaches statistical quality control. Then there's the dark doom skies. And there's the steps where you used to throw a tennis ball against the steps and pretend you were in a baseball game. And there's Mary Brady. She had a brother and two sisters, and the sisters had her nephews, and I think 5 or 6 of them were killed in the Battle of Britain and RAF. They were RAF pilots and or navigators. I think that's me throwing the ball. That's Freddie Booth trying to hit the ball. I don't know whatever happened to Freddie. I can remember Freddie's older brother, Werner, was in the Navy, and he came back with a couple of machine guns, I guess, Japanese, and they were 25 caliber machine guns, which is unusual. Dart pitcher. I don't know the camera, who was taking the pictures. Crack, crack, crack. So that was our ball field there, so to speak, and there's a 1949 Chevrolet, so this must have been somewhere in 49, I guess, or 50. Oh, what a strike, huh? Oh, a little wild there, looked like. Everybody was thin. There was no fat kids back then. They didn't have any food. Oh, comes a tricycle. I'm only kidding, they had food, but there was ration stamps back during the war. And I remember I lost the ration book, so that means you couldn't have any meat or butter if you didn't have your ration book. Okay, this is really not the end, but it's the end of the beginning, and there's going to be new kids coming along, new grandkids and so forth, Lena and Nathaniel Paul, or Paul Nathaniel, and there's also Adam and Alex and Andrew. So it's the end of the beginning, but the beginning of a new era.